A swift kick, a splash of blood, and the gleam of knocked-out teeth under the ring lights. The referee shouts about Gang Musung's victory and his win of 10 million won. The noise of applause and the screams of the crowd echo through the old TV set that the hero is watching over his lunch break. He is not happy with the match he sees, for the old years, where he was the best fighter, are still fresh in his memory. He is distracted from his freshly brewed noodles by his wife's call, which reminds him of the divorce papers. A request to think some more is met only with a shout, the dinner pot flying into the wall, as does Lim Dok Gu's shout of disappointment in his own life. Han Jae-seok, a young journalist, scans the web and discovers a story about his victory, and calls him to appear on the legendary Fist, which will be hosted by the network he works for. He finds the former boxing legend at a construction site where he works part-time and offers him a chance to show his skills in the ring again. But Lim Dok Gu is furious with his words and almost beats up Han Jae-seok for his offer. The young lad manages to escape his grasp and walk away in one piece after shouting out a prize money of 10 million won. But even that does not dissuade the fighter from joining the TV circus. One attack never comes alone, and on the same day another phone call ruins the humdrum existence of Lim Dok Gu. He gets a call from the school where his teenage daughter, Soo Kwon, is attending. The girl takes after her father and also wants to use brute force to her advantage. The caller, Lim Dok Gu, is told that his daughter has been poisoning another girl and extorting money from her. In response to the legitimate question why, Soo Kwon throws to her father that she needed to get rid of the pregnancy. The injured student's mother yells at him, demanding compensation. His daughter stares wolfishly at her parent, showing with her life going down the drain how screwed up he is. On his knees, the former fighter and current father makes a decision. He will pay 10 million won in compensation, which he intends to win on the television show Legendary Fist, all to keep his daughter out of jail. He meets Han Jae-seok again and tells him his story, how Korea changed in the troubled 80s, and with it all of them. How in one of the street fights he defeated the 6 men who attacked his friend and got stabbed in the leg. The story was the basis for a short adaptation in the episode of the show Legendary Fist where Lim Dok Gu stepped into the fighting ring. Television viewers laughed at his phrasing, calling him the Korean Batman. While on the other side of the screen, that very protected friend was shaking in terror because they had once both sworn not to tell anyone what happened that day. At a vote on the show, Lim Dok Gu was unanimously voted Legendary Fist and allowed to fight. But his loved ones, for whom he had started the whole thing, did not appreciate his attempt to solve problems and demanded that the circus stop, pissing off the former fist-fighting legend. And on the other side of town, another legendary fighter, Ajasi, who had sunk to the bottom of life, was cleaning up someone else's vomit in a nightclub, working off his card debt. But temptation is stronger than common sense. Breaking the rules is easier than following them. He picks up his cards again, contrary to his promise to pay it all off. He is caught and threatened with being sold for his organs. When he remembers that day and that everything could have turned out differently if that day had not happened. Preparations for Lim Dok Gu's fight are in full swing, and Han Jae-seok looks for a suitable opponent. It turns out to be huge rice store owner Jun Young-soo. The crowd at the show goes wild, unanimously voting for his participation in the legendary fist fights. But Han Jae-seok's editor-in-chief and boss is not happy with the result, even though the ratings jumped 12%. After all, viewers love the show not because two of the strongest menaces of their youth will clash for the championship, but because of how much their incarnations of fear will show themselves to be fools. Lim Dok Gu's former friend, who is referred to only as Mr. Lee by his colleagues, is celebrating corporate with them when he sees the Legendary Fist episode on TV again. He gets angry again, especially when people around him start chanting in approval of the show. He gets drunk, looks at his wife for lying to him about her dead phone, at his daughter sleeping peacefully, a ray of sunshine in his life and its meaning. And inside from the depths of his memories, the bloody stain and the still hand of the past resurfaces. The day of Lim Dok Gu's tournament. His daughter waits for him on the doorstep of his apartment and begs, almost begs, her father not to perform or make a fool of himself. The girl admits that even though he hasn't been a good father and has fought with her mother, he is still her favorite, proud and independent father. Her father promises not to let him make a clown of himself. He is the same Lim Dok Gu. He bravely goes to meet his destiny and win. The start of the match. The crowd chants first, Lim Dok Gu chanting at the same time chuckling at his thickened figure in plain clothes. Just as boisterously, the crowd cheers for his opponent, Jun Young-soo, who is dressed in a superhero costume that fits tightly around his round beer belly. Lim Dok Gu silently watches the unfolding show and the clown of his opponent, who suggests that he doesn't fight at full force because he doesn't want money, only fame on TV. The referee announces the start of the fight. Many people have gathered in front of the screens, including former friends and opponents of Lim Dok Gu. The opponents glare at each other, assessing each other. And just as Lim Dok Gu fell for Young Jun-soo's ruse and relaxed, the latter attacked with lightning speed, making a takedown. Once again, Lim Dok Gu only had time to make a fist as he was lifted into the air by the fat man's strong arms and thrown over the deflection. 1-0 in favor of Jun Young-soo. But he hadn't yet realized, bouncing around the ring to the chanting of the audience, that he had awakened the legendary fist. Lim Dok Gu struck back, immediately breaking Jun Young-soo's nose, sprinkling the ring with blood. And while the rice store owner has enough to live on and really doesn't need the money, Lim Dok Gu needs this win, too much at stake, his pride and honor already staked. He can't lose. A punch to the stomach and Jun Young-soo falls to his knees, spitting out a bloody mouthpiece. The crowd goes wild. The announcer's in shock at such a quick victory. Jun Young-soo is angry, and Lim Dok Gu is in a daze. The spirit of battle hasn't visited him in so long, smelling of blood again. Just like that day, he recalls. He is awakened by the clapping of Jun Young-soo, who tries to regain the audience's favor to elicit their laughter, but this only baits him with another swift kick from the blood-sniffing predator. Punch after punch, the ring turns increasingly red. The crowd shouts the winner's name. But soon their cries fall silent, replaced by a look of horror on their faces. The next day, Han Jae-seok reads on the news about the fight in which Lim Dok Gu had to be dragged away from Jun Young-soo. Ratings soar again, and he's glad he could find such a spectacle for the show, but his boss yells at him again for fussing around. Meanwhile, Lim Dok Gu has been healing the injuries he received in his empty gray apartment. Age is doing its work. Many things have become more difficult, especially patching himself up. Then someone rings his doorbell. It turns out to be a neighbor, complaining to him about the abusive kids at her son's school. The chubby, bespectacled boy is being beaten and extorted, and she asks Lim Dok Gu to take a picture with the boy so that he can defend himself with his authority. The man doesn't mind, and makes a sterner face. The child is delighted, and the hero only tells himself once again after they leave that this world is a living hell. Shaw needs another legendary fist, and Han Jae-seok has already hit on a new trail. He goes to the Savannah Club and asks a certain Mr. Chaseok there, who is the Agency we already know, a former rival of Lim Dok Gu, who owes a large sum at the card table. He tells his story on tape, namely why he started fighting and how his and Lim Dok Gu's paths became intertwined. Agency wandered into a school festival with his friends, and as he walked through the halls, he ran into some local kids who started picking on them and insulting them. When they went outside the school building, they continued to argue, and so Agency realized that the guys were just bored and itching for their fists. But they were not an easy bunch. One was the chairman's son and the other had a father in the government, so it didn't matter how they looked at it, and they were even outnumbered. Young Agency struck the first blow, but not to start a fight, but to pave the way for a tactical retreat, and that would have been the end of it, as Agency and his friends ran faster than their pursuers. But one of his friends stumbled and ended up in their hands. Agency could not escape without his friend and rushed to the rescue. There, fighting off most of them, he was hit on the head with a mop stick, the scar from that sneaky blow still visible on his head, 23 stitches. Han Jae-seok points out in the story that Lim Dok Gu had nothing to do with it, to which Agency says that even though Lim Dok Gu wasn't involved in that first fight, the rest of the story started because of him. This material made Han Jae-seok's boss very happy, and for the first time, the girl didn't yell at him but gave him an enthusiastic hug. Already in the next episode, the announcers were shouting about Lim Dok Gu's new rival from the screen. Agency was finishing his work at the club, cleaning up the trash and scraps from the pig-eating bosses and directors, when he was seized by a coughing fit. His friend and colleague, a young waiter, looked at him sympathetically and asked if he really wanted to get back in the ring against such a legend, to which the aging fighter replied that even if he died, he wouldn't regret it. Mr. Lee, Lim Dok Gu's former comrade, is gloomier than a thundercloud as his usual routine crumbles under the weight of the past and the burdens of the present. His beloved daughter has cerebral palsy. His wife is cheating and lying. His life is falling apart and it feels like it never started going well after that day. And Lim Dok Gu himself faces the consequences of his actions. Popularity on screen, poverty and emptiness in life. His employer refuses him a new job saying that others are afraid of him after the show and he has nothing suitable for him. The hero has no choice but to clench his fists tighter lest he use them out of habit and walk away. At the grocery store he is also greeted by a hubbub, and the crowd that starts taking pictures of the fighter from the popular show, but as soon as he turns to them with his meager purchases, they scatter, saying how scary dangerous he is. Social networks are full of news about the upcoming fight. The chats are flooded with the volume of different opinion, and the one who is the subject of such heated discussion sits in his shack and drinks, thinking that tomorrow will be another empty day, when you do not know whether you're dead or not. And before the two legends fight again, the past unfolds where the roads of Agency and Lim Dok Gu crossed. A new boyish brawl, again a numerical advantage, but Agency, nicknamed a snake by TV reporters for his trademark punch in the air, once again tried to come out victorious with his friends, and he almost succeeded. But then he noticed two of them deciding to cowardly escape, and chase them. But no sooner had he shown them that he couldn't leave his comrades behind than a new fighter blocked his path, one whom Ajasi wouldn't have been able to defeat at the time, Lim Dok Gu. The legend is told. The audience once again raves in the stands praising the new legendary fist, Shin Chesak. And on the other side of the screen, the third face of the hero's dark past, Mr. Lee, in horror, almost cries out that they are both crazy. Not only is Lim Dok Gu in trouble, but also his daughter Soo Kwon, who hasn't stopped extorting money from her classmate. But now her position has become even more precarious. If the others fear her father, then her surroundings, this fighting situation is only an opportunity to put pressure on her. A way to hurt her father as well through rumors about his daughter. The hero himself has only just learned of his new adversary. Though time had played a cruel joke on them all, it was hard not to recognize an old enemy. After summoning Han Jae-seok for a talk, the legendary fist fighter learns that Shin Chesak himself called the studio and said he had some interesting information about their new champion. Lim Dok Gu starts demanding to know where he can find and talk to Shin Chesak, but he is gently reminded of the rules of participant confidentiality, to which the hero once again almost loses his temper, scaring the people in the talking room and attracting the attention of business and press sharks. All he has to do is put up with it again. Like with his job, like with so much going on in his life, pride is already built into the tournament. But finally, before he leaves the building and prepares for a new fight with an old enemy, he asks to betray him that if he doesn't stop talking, he too will have something to say. A new battle is near, a new victory for one and a loss for the other. And from the darkness of the past the smell of blood begins again.